Welcome to We Question and Learn. Today is, I guess, a celebratory interview because on the line with me this morning is Mike Batchelor.
Hello, everyone.
That's good. Good to have you. Mike, this is sort of a milestone for you, one of the biggest in your life. Am I correct?
Well, I guess so. You don't do it very often, but in mid-March, I announced I will be retiring from the Erie Community Foundation. It has been 30 years, and it's been a wonderful, amazing run, and I've been blessed to work with really talented staff and talented board members and great community partners. But for the last several years, we've been talking with our executive committee about a possible transition, and this is a planned transition, and I guess you never know when the time is right, but 30 years just seemed about right for us. So we are now in the midst of a search and targeting potentially year-end having a successor named, and looking forward to watching from the sidelines as that he or she does bigger and better things.
Well, okay, that was a very kind thing to say, but let's go back a step. Let's see, 30 years. I can't do the math. You were
1990.
1990.
The story is I was at working at Villa Maria College, and then I worked at Gannon University. And I was aware of the Erie Community Foundation and admired it from afar, like many people did. At the time, it was run by Ed Dahl, who was the president of Lovell Manufacturing Company and a local civic legend. And he was in his 80s. They had some office staff that helped, but there was no, professional paid CEO or executive director. And I think they had, they had $20 million of assets. And the board at the time said, well, Ed's not getting any younger, and $20 million's a lot of money, so let's do a search for then the title was executive director. And, I put my hat in the ring like many people did, I'm sure. And Susie Hagen was chair of the search committee, and she often joked to me about getting my resume on the right top of the pile. And did some interviews and was selected. I didn't grow up wanting to be a president of a community foundation, and frankly had never heard of one till I was probably 30. I was 34 when I was hired, and I lied to the paper and said I was 35. Probably just a couple months off. I think I was hired August 1st, and my birthday's in September.
Okay.
But that's a good story because it sort of reflects on how prestigious I felt the job was, and certainly someone 34 couldn't possibly do it, but someone 35 might be able to.
But 30 years goes by very quickly. Now, can we go back to something you said? You mentioned that there was $20 million, and that's back in 1990.
1990, yeah. The numbers are really, amazing. And again, I had a lot of help, and I hope the whole community feels proud of this. But over the 30 years, we've raised, I think, $420 million and distributed $300 and some million while growing the assets from $20 million to our high water mark was $285 million. We're a little below that right now, but still, I think 270 is where we are at the moment. So, yeah, if you look back, we had 53 endowment funds when I started, and now there's probably 850. I remember my first year, we raised $330,000 and felt quite good about that. And I think the second year was in the 300,000s, and then it just exploded and took off, multiple millions every year. I think the least we've ever brought in was 5 or 6 million. Last year was our very first 2020 year. We brought in over $20 million. We gave away over $20 million. We created over 20 different new endowment funds, and our market value appreciated by $20 million. So I think it just demonstrates the power of taking the long-term view here, and the power of investments. Obviously, that's important. But really, I guess the story, as I think about it, is we always had kind of the best board in town, and a lot of seeds were planted when I first started. Things we do now that are normal, we didn't do long ago. We didn't have a newsletter or an annual report or talk about our grants, and we do all that now. And the seeds that were planted before me have come to fruition, and some of the things we did while I was here came to fruition, and I hope we're planting seeds today that will, my successor and future generations will benefit from.
I remember your office across the street from the courthouse.
Well, it goes back before then. When I started, our office was in the Baldwin Building, then called the Baldwin Building, on the 4th or 5th floor, if I recall. And I didn't have a fax machine. And I would go to upstairs or downstairs. There was a dear friend of the foundation, Dr. Barrett Walker, one of our first donors, donor advised funds, and I would borrow his fax machine. So we've come a long way since then. After the Baldwin Building, we moved to 127 6th Street, right across from the Erie Club. There's a beautiful brick townhouse there. Funny story there, too. I was walking around downtown wondering if we could find some other office space, and my eye was drawn to that building, and I didn't know anything about it, and it turns out the Episcopal Church owns it and rents it. And, of course, Bud Bracken, who former chair of Marine Bank and a former chair of the Community Foundation, was very active in the Episcopal Church, so that transition went pretty smoothly. We enjoyed it there, and might still have been there, except our staff grew.
Yes.
As our assets grew. And another good story, I'm in the office one day, and Tom Hagen calls me and says, "Hey, Mike, there's a building down the street where we are now that used to be Case Management Support Services. It was a county entity, and the county changed the contract. Case Management went out of business. The offices are fairly large, so law firms weren't interested because it may be a little bit inefficient." And Tom was on that board and said, "Hey, we were thinking maybe the Community Foundation might like this as a home." And being a smart person, when Tom talked, we listened, and then Susie gave us a nice gift to help renovate the buildings, and now we've turned into a campus. We have this building. Attached to us is the nonprofit partnership, which is housed in the Susan Hurt Hagen Center for Transformational Philanthropy, the former carriage house of our main building now. And we've recently acquired a property to the directly to the east of us, which will eventually be renovated and connected. And the Arcturus staff, it's a socially responsible hedge fund that we helped bring to Erie that's going to bring $40 million of investment to our town. We'll be headquartered there along with some other organizations.
Okay,
so we've really sort of created a whole campus here now.
It's fabulous. We're talking with Mike Batchelor, president and executive director still, right? Is that still an official title to the new person?
My title's president, I guess.
Yeah, I keep promoting you, but and you turned it around and retired on me, but that's okay. As president of the Erie Community Foundation, this is WQLN, the We Question and Learn program. Mike, fond moments, I'm sure, but you have so much history over 30 years. Has any one item really surfaces in your mind right now as you recollect on great years in Erie, Pennsylvania, and the Erie Community Foundation?
So I guess the first thing, and I've been asked this question, obviously.
Yeah.
I think the first thing is the quality of the board chairs I've had the privilege to work with over time. Really been outstanding people, and it tends to be when you come on the board of the Community Foundation, you take off your individual hat and you put on your community hat, and that's been really inspiring to see. Of course, starting with Ed Dahl, and some of these names don't, mean much to some younger people now, but at the time, these were just the pillars of our community. Bud Bracken, Al DeVal, Ray McGarvey.
Great
Pete
people.
Shabetta, then more recently Bob Dwyer and Russ Warner, B.J. Lechner, Tim Hunter now. I hope I didn't forget anyone. But that's been really an inspiration to me. So that's one of the first things. Other memories, I have thousands of stories of donors who, come to me, sometimes in tears saying, Mike, I have this money, I don't know what to do with it. How can you help me help the community? And that's so rewarding. I also think of brands that we've created that I hope will live on and likely will live on, and new ideas we brought to town. I mean, things like Erie Gives. It's our 10th year doing Erie Gives, and I hope that continues. I mentioned the nonprofit partnership. It's a very valuable organization. I think you're on the board or have been on the board of that.
Yeah, I spent 12 years. I've got to say, it was the most interesting and beneficial learning experience I've ever had. Because, Mike, as president, the Erie Community Foundation touches everything in the community. The concept.
Well, I think now we do. If I would say what has happened here is we took a well-respected but quiet and reactive organization and turned it into hopefully still well-respected, but more of a partnership organization that works with strong champions around the community to try to make good things happen. And it is true that most everything crosses our desks here. I mean, maybe not everything and maybe not always timely, but we do get involved in a lot. We do touch a lot. Our decisions aren't perfect. I'm sure we've made grants and turned down grants that many people disagree with. When you become a leadership organization, what comes along with that is more criticism. It'd be easy to be quiet and not take a position, but my gosh, we just, and some people disagree, but we had a lot to do with getting the community college approved, and I'm proud of that. And
yes.
we had a lot to do with getting EDDC up and running, and we had a lot to do with bringing this Arcturus investment fund, and more, many more that I could talk about.
The concept of a community foundation, not, how could I put this? It's not universal, but it's prevalent in the United States, and the Erie Community Foundation is fairly well scaled on the list of foundations, community foundations in the United States.
What a community foundation is a collection of charitable endowments, and we are benefiting a particular geographic area. We have there are about 800 of them in the country, and the Erie Community Foundation has always been within the top 10% in terms of assets. And that's something I hope we're all proud of, because we're nowhere near the top 10% population-wise. So
no, I think that's outstanding. That's an incredible number when you think about it.
There's a secret sauce here. It works. People who have some wealth and have done well have a general tendency to want to give back.
Yes.
It's not a transient community, so it may be a little harder to build a community foundation in a town where people are, in and out and maybe making a lot of money, but then moving on. People have roots here. When they ask you where you went to school, they mean high school.
Yes,
generally speaking, they might mean grade school.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad, but one of the goods is people care about each other and they care about the community.
You came from somewhere else. I say that with all honor. You moved here, right?
I did. Yeah. The story is my wife actually grew up here. She is from the Shakona candy store family, which some people may remember. So they had a 100-year-old business that is outright. Of course, the generations didn't work out, but I was working at Hiram College in Ohio, and she was working at Youngstown State. And we lived in Ravenna, and then we came to Erie on the weekends because she knew a lot of people, and we had fun here. So we said, let's try to
that's
move
the
to
old
Erie.
Kent State area, so within spitting distance, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's fabulous. And as you came to Erie, you came into the scholastic arena, right? As you mentioned.
Yeah, I started working for Villa Maria College. Sister Larice, as I look back on mentors, again, folks may not recall all these names, but I've been blessed to have so many great mentors. Sister Larice Anton, who was the president of Villa at the time, probably one of the most influential people in our community. She sort of took me under her wing and saw something there, and she helped introduce me to Al DeVal, who was president of Hammermill Paper Company.
Yes.
I got to meet Bud Bracken, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So I think it's a story of, networking. You got to earn your job. I mean, it's not just you got to deliver too. But certainly, I got to meet great people who mentored me and helped me.
I remember 2007, 2008. Things got a little stressful there.
Yeah, interesting, because it has an analogy to today, and we probably are approaching it the same way. I remember I wrote a letter to the nonprofit community with the board's approval, and in 2008, when things were falling apart, we said we're going to increase our spending and give out more to the community because we needed it. And frankly, we're doing the same thing now with COVID. We have we've increased our Helping Today budget by 50%, from $1 million to $1.5 million. We are putting another $100,000 into Erie Gives. So the prorated match pool this year is $400,000, up from I think $300,000 last year. We did an emergency telethon, put $100,000 into that, and raised $700,000 for COVID in the early days, which was really so impressive and incredibly important. I remember one of our first grants was $168,000 to the food bank, so they could just buy food to distribute to people.
Excellent. Yes.
So, with this board's leadership, we're spending money. And so if anybody thinks the foundation's hoarding money during this time of great need, they're absolutely wrong. We are increasing our spending and really doubling down and trying to help the community. We're also expediting our decision-making process and getting money out the door faster. So I'm really proud of our team and how they've responded to this.
Mike, you went from one employee, you and one other employee, to how many employees today?
Yeah, so it's grown. I mean, there's overhead here now. I think we have 14 staff, and we did it slowly and always through strategic planning. Essentially, from 20 million to 100 million, it was essentially a two-person shop. There were some others, but when we crossed 100 million, that was such a big event in the town and a big, I guess, decision point for us. That's when we said, let's kind of staff up and slowly build what we have now, which are divisions and teams and vice presidents. So we started with, I think, probably the finance area, and then we moved into program, which is what we call our grant making or community impact, added marketing, and really not that long ago, we added sort of donor stewardship, asset development, whatever word you like to use with it. So I now have vice presidents in all those areas, and they all have, one or two people working for them. We still think it's, relatively thinly staffed, although, I realize that might seem like a lot of people, but we do a heck of a lot here. Just Erie Gives alone, that's like 9,000 donors and 20,000 different gifts. And I mean, there's so much processing of paperwork that goes in and out of here. It's really almost like a bank or a trust department in that we're servicing clients and taking care of their charitable wishes.
And obviously the standard auditing / consultative folks are involved with you, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we get audited every year. We also run community foundations in Corey and Union City and Findlay Lake and Northeast. And we do all the staff work out of here, the paperwork, the due diligence. They have their own boards that make the decisions, and then they work with their own civic leadership to try to raise money there. But the staffing is here. So we're really running 5 community foundations out of this office. And those are brands that I think will live on too. That didn't, we created them. So if you add them all together, they're now over the size that this place was when I started. They're
That's
all
fabulous.
over 20 million. Yeah.
Your affiliations as a community foundation, I'm sure they stretch to the national level. Is that right?
Yeah, I got very lucky here to get involved nationally quite early in my tenure. I got selected to be on this, they called it Organizational Development Assistance Program, and I was a consultant for them. So my board approved that because I learned something everywhere I went. And so I ended up consulting in over 50 different community foundations. And it was great because I hope I helped them, and I hope I learned something, and hope I brought some good ideas back. I hope I get to continue that work. I don't know what my next chapter will be for sure, but that's one of the options I'm looking at.
Did that involve a good deal of travel? How did that work? You said 50 different groups?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. I consulted in California and Alabama, Michigan. I mean, all over the country.
Fabulous. And we rate very well. I mean, you can be prejudiced. It's okay. But we as a yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about. You see things that you probably would like to borrow, so to speak. And then there's things that you've given to folks so that they can do better.
There's no doubt that this is a good community foundation, and we can get better. We make a lot of mistakes, but people look to us as a bit of a leader. I'm the 2-time president of our state association.
Oh, and, congratulations! I knew about one. Okay, congratulations.
Just as an example.
Yeah.
So,
you probably have some wonderful stories. Does anything come to mind that really hit you, so to speak?
I've helped create over 800 endowment funds, and every one of them is a story. I mean, people don't do this on a whim. I mean, and they don't do it based on our time schedule. They do it when it's right for them. So there's always a personal event. Maybe it's a death. Maybe it's something they want to celebrate. Maybe they're just trying to get their affairs in order, and they put this off forever. And I mean, I guess what I'm proud of is people view us as a resource and a helper, as opposed to a fundraiser.
That's right. Yeah, you're not a fundraising mechanism. You're a consultative group that helps people achieve their goals.
That's really how it's worked out, and it's such a personal interaction with people when they're talking about their estates and their long-term goals and the things that they want to accomplish now and when they're gone. So every one of those is very, very touching, and I hate to even mention one over the other.
No, that's okay. I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
it's not necessarily the big one, not necessarily the size. It's just the intent that really will stick with me for the rest of my life.
The big item, and forgive me, this hits me, is the amount of money that the Erie Community Foundation helped raise for Erie Gives Day, the whole concept. That's up to an astounding number now, isn't it? For one day?
It's $26 million so far that we've raised during the 10 years. Last year was $5.5 million. It started at 10 years ago when we did our 75th anniversary. We raised $750,000, and we thought that was great.
That was great. That was in a one-day drive. That's outstanding. Yeah. Yes, that's wonderful.
And honestly, it's going up by almost $1 million a year. Now, this year, I have no idea. Of course, every year
it's
I have
hard to
idea.
tell. Well, right now it's going to be interesting, as you said before.
Yeah. And it could who knows? It could go down, but on the other hand,
you never know.
The phrase this year is now more than ever.
Yeah.
And people need help now more than ever.
And the groups that you affect with this, all the member nonprofits,
Yep.
The nonprofit partnership, right?
Yeah, there's over 400 organizations. There's a search engine. It's easy to make a gift, and then every gift is increased by the prorated match fund that is provided by us and some of our sponsors.
In the couple of minutes that are left here, where do you see community foundations in today's world? Is it going to be different? You've grown, you've modified it. Your whole team, all your supporters, your board, great people have literally grown this to something that's, I believe, unique in the country to a good degree. Do you see?
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We can't predict the future, obviously, and new leadership will have new ideas. But I think the community should prepare. Going from 20 to 100 took a certain amount of time. Going from 100 to 200 took a certain amount of time, but less. Going from 200, we could be 300 if markets cooperate in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. And I think this community should prepare for a $500 million community foundation. I hope I'm around to see it, and that's a lot of money that can do good work.
Well, I hear everything that I hear, and good things about economic development, but the Erie Community Foundation is like a mirror, if not a prognosticator of what this community is and can be. Am I right, do you think?
I've never been more optimistic about Erie than I am right now. I think that's maybe a good message to make sure I drive home. So my departure has nothing to do with what I think about the community. The stars are aligned. We've been using the phrase transformational philanthropy for the last couple of years, and it's happening. Get ready. The EDDC building's going to go up. McGee Women's Research Institute, which we helped bring to town, it's going to happen. There are other things in the works that people are going to be very, happy about. The whole grand plan here is to create a downtown and adjacent neighborhoods that are attractive to the millennial workforce, that will
and that's starting
grow
to
our
happen.
Population. Yeah. It's happening.
It's happening, yes.
So our high water mark as a population was 165,000, and now we're around 100. We can't go down to 80 and 70. So the community rallied and said, "Wait a second, we're going to change this," and it's changing, and I'm proud to see it, and happy to play a small role in it.
First of all, congratulations on your upcoming retirement. We're actually sorry to see you go. Another note of thanks. I've seen you do so many projects, and I've seen you motivate so many folks. You were a media-minded person. You knew how to deliver the message. I think people heard you. I think your board was well heard thanks to your efforts. And the nonprofit partnership was another project that you folks should be proud of. Mike, thank you very much for all you've done for this community. And you're not going to escape this. Do you know that?
Well, I've been on your show a few times, but probably the frequency will decline over time.
Well, I hear that. But people, if they have your phone number, Mike, they're going to call you and ask for your expertise, and I'm sure they will. So thank you.
Happy to help if I can.
Oh, well, thank you for helping today. And thank you for being on the program.
Okay, Tom. Take care.
I'm Michelle Martin. These days it seems like just about everybody is choosing sides and doubling down on talking points. Here at NPR, we try to cut through the noise with meaningful and respectful discussions with people from all perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life. Join the conversation every weekend on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Saturday and Sunday afternoons at 5 on WQLN Radio.
Hi, this is Jeff Hanley, host of Jazz Happening Now. Each week we listen to some of the latest jazz recordings, and I think you'll be thrilled by what today's jazz musicians are doing and saying. The recording industry has changed, but the music is as alive and as vibrant as ever. The future of jazz is happening right now, if you just listen. And please do.
Sunday night at 6 on WQLN Radio.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. We're celebrating our 16th year on WQLN Radio. We are also happy to announce that the program is podcast on NPR One, and as a matter of fact, it is now on 7 other podcast series. I won't mention the commercial names of those organizations since we are a nonprofit entity, but make a long story short, we're proud to be broadcasting on WQLN, but probably anywhere in the world. Today, a special program. We're going to talk with 2 key people at the Jefferson Educational Society, Erie's think tank, and of course, Ferki Ferati. Ferki, you've been on the program before.
Yes, I have.
And I think your title changed since you were on here last. That's how long ago it was.
I am the president of the Jefferson Educational Society.
And that's been for a couple of years now.
I'm going into my 4th year.
Oh, time flies when you're having fun, I guess, right?
I guess so.
And a fellow that's been in the media on WQLN. Ben, are you there on the line?
Tom, I am here. Thanks for having me. Always enjoyed the times when we bump into each other in and out of the studios up there at WQLN when I was fortunate to have a radio show there alongside you. Yep. But it's nice to be here at the Jefferson doing the good work. Been here since 2015 and now as the vice president.
Ben Speggen and Ferki Ferati. We consider you 2 gentlemen key people in our community, and I would like to explain that to the audience, although I'm going to turn this around and have you explain it. The Jefferson Educational Society is now how old, please?
We are 12 years old. We're going in our 13th year here in the fall, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been here since day one, Tom, and I am pleasantly surprised of the support that the Jefferson has seen in the community over the years. It means that we're doing a couple of things right.
I think you're doing quite a few things right, which is why we invited you to come on the air today. First of all, your mission and vision for the Jefferson.
We were designed based on a study that came out in the early 2000s, which showed that, ideas were taken 8 to 10 years behind some of the more progressive cities to show up in Erie, Pennsylvania. So the mission of the Jefferson was to serve as a platform for the emergence of ideas. We decided to do that in 2 ways, and one way was through educational programming. We designed ourselves after, our programming is designed after the 92nd Street Y in New York City and somewhat the Chautauqua Institution. But we also wanted to get into research, and so we looked at a place like the Brookings Institution and how they do that, except we're mostly focused in things that would affect Erie, Pennsylvania, rather than focus on policies of global or national level. So we're focusing on how do we make Erie a better place, and what ideas does Erie need to get to know. On top of that, we wanted to get into general citizenship education, which is, civic education for, people who just want to learn for the sake of learning, and that's what we are.
You offer many services, particularly courses. You have excellent lectures. You do seminars. Have I covered most of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, we offer about, pre-pandemic, we were, in 2019, we were offering, close to 100 lectures at the Jefferson on 32nd State. We also opened 4 chapters of the Jefferson Society. We are in Fairview, we are in Edinburgh, we are in Corey, and we are in Northeast. And we were offering 2 lectures a month for each one of these places, which would have brought us an additional 100 lectures or so a year. So we were, approaching 200 lectures a year, plus numerous of publications and essays. And we also run a leadership academy to train young leaders to get involved in civic life here in Erie.
Let me ask a question. You have 100 employees to do all this?
I think we're 5.
You mentioned hundreds of opportunities for the community to participate with you and to follow your outreach, but I'm imagining 20 or 30 people.
No, I think we're at 5 full-time
Wow.
people, and the rest of them, we have people like Judy Lynch, former county executive, and Andy Roth, former president of Notre Dame College in St. Bonaventure, and people like Paul Gamble, a local activist here in town.
Mm-hmm.
David True, a historian, and these folks are practically just donating their time to the community. And while these 5 full-time people were doing the administration part of it.
Ben, to incorporate you into the conversation, what are your duties? What's your outreach like for the Jefferson Educational Society?
Sure, Tom. I appreciate that. And Ferki touched on it. We were really looking to help the Jefferson grow into its second decade. We were looking at the past 10 years of the Jefferson as an organization, its growth and development, and how we had really become a staple in the community that people could turn to have informed dialogue and spirited conversations, and really understand that we are a platform for informed discussion to talk about issues that are important to the community and beyond. And as we were looking at establishing that over the past 10 years, we were looking at where the next level of growth could be. And as Ferki had mentioned, we were then developing our satellite programming initiative. And we recognized, Tom, that geography was unfortunately a barrier to access to education, to what we were doing. Not everyone has the ability or desire to drive to 32nd and State Street, to the Jefferson where we're located, where we're headquartered. For some folks in Erie County, that can be a 45-minute drive. And for some folks, they may not have the ability to get there. They might not have the car, even though we're on public transportation routes. It just might be a challenge for them. And so rather than finding a way to, hire a fleet of buses to bring everyone to us, which, we happen to think might be a little absurd, we thought, how can we get out into the Erie County community and really be able to bring the quality programming that we do free of charge to those throughout the county. And so we were able to open pre-pandemic 4 satellites, one in Corey, Pennsylvania, one in Edinburgh, one in Fairview, and one in Northeast, really creating a spoke out from our central hub on 32nd and State. And we're remaining engaged with those communities. We've had to certainly pivot because of the pandemic. And in doing such, we've moved our programming online because we want to keep people safe. The safety of our patrons, our presenters, and our team remains paramount through everything that we do, Tom. And so we know the important role of social distancing and being mindful of how we can help the community really quell and squash the spread of the COVID-19 virus. So I've been busy at work on that, moving our programming online to a digital capacity, as well as really helping to ramp up our publications division. We've got a wonderful publications coordinator in Mr. Patrick Cuneo, but I bring some editorial experience as well, having served as the managing editor for the Erie Reader until 2015, but then also still remaining on as a contributing editor. So we've been able to really work with, as Ferki said, a great stable of contributors, including Dr. David Frew there, Dr. Andy Roth there, Dr. Judy Lynch, and many others, to really churn out publications, Tom, sometimes up to 4 a week, but certainly no less than 2 new publications for the community each week. Some are short reads, timely reads that people get to dive into. Others are longer, more in-depth reports, but we've really pivoted to make sure that we remain an asset for the community through this pandemic, because none of us have that crystal ball that we all do want, Tom. We don't know when it's ending and how it's ending, but what we do know is that the Jefferson needs to remain an important asset to the community and continue to provide programming and publications during this most trying of times.
Mentioned programming, and I was going to lead into publication. Thank you for jumping on my question. That's fine. But
I'm so sorry, Tom.
No,
I knew I had a crystal ball for that. I knew it was coming.
Either way, but the third issue is you educate the community relative to leadership, and you actually have a facility for that. Am I correct? Leadership Academy?
You are, Tom. So we have a Civic Leadership Academy, and Ferki, if you want to speak to the origin a little bit and how and why we do that, I think that's important to know. But I'll just mention before I get out of the way and let Ferki tell some of the philosophy, because really it's under his leadership that we developed this. One of the things that I think is really remarkable is, I mentioned a lot there in the past answer, Tom, about the pandemic, and we were looking around to do a pulse check on civic leadership academies throughout the country as other places do things similar to this. We were seeing a lot of organizations make the tough decision to postpone a civic leadership academy this year because they can't gather people in person to be able to do this. And we looked at our team, our resources, and can't help but think that in a time of crisis is when you need leadership the most. And so we have moved our Civic Leadership Academy online. It is a remote learning experience for the 21 participants that are involved this year. So happy about that. And that's under the current stewardship and leadership of our Director of Operations, Miss Angela Beaumont, as well as her wonderful colleague and a newer member to the Jefferson team, Michelle Knight, who's really helping to project manage that as well. And it doesn't come without its hurdles, in terms of moving a curriculum to a remote learning experience, but they are doing a tremendous job to make sure that that is still a resource that is available to the community. So Ferki, I'll pitch over to you to give a little bit of background of how that got started with the Jefferson, why it got started, and why that was something that was important for you under your leadership for us.
Great, thanks, Ben. This was, I was, just doing some research on, leadership and how communities progress and become better and more inclusive. I did some research and found out, places like the World Bank are saying that, a progressive community where everybody is succeeding has to have two platforms for leadership training. One of them is to continuously upgrade the current leadership with best practices. And we do that in numerous ways, whether it's the Jefferson Dinner or we have the Metro 100 and so on and so forth. But the other thing is that they suggested or they recommend a platform where, you're creating emerging leaders and you're given a platform for what's known as intergenerational learning, where, your current leaders and the leaders of the future are interacting with each other. So we decided to create the Jefferson Leadership Academy, and it has a curriculum that is basically designed for this type of intergenerational learning. So our participants get to go and meet with, all the way up, in the state level. They meet with the governor and with the leaders of both the House and the Senate, both Republican and Democrat. And they get to come back here in Erie, and they go to places like the courthouse and the city hall, and we're in Corey, and we're in Union City and Girard and, Northeast and so on and so forth, with the idea of these younger folks to learn about how government and civic life is really run in our community and how they can get it to be involved. So that's the essence of the Leadership Academy, and it's been tremendously successful. We've had, five. This is it fifth or sixth class, Ben? I think it's fifth class.
So we started back in 2015. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. We are in our sixth cohort, and it's just remarkable to see the growth from then to now. And it was such a rewarding experience. When I had the chance to serve as its director from 2016 through 19, and really pass that off to Angela, who Angela was in the inaugural cohort in 2015, and yes. Really. Took advantage of that as we encourage our own team members to go through this experience because we see it being so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Right. And as you can see, Tom, we at the think tank are really good at math.
we can count on our fingers really quickly, Tom. There's a reason I majored in English twice.
Join the club. But I have to compliment you guys, because as I listen to you speak and as I look at your website, you mentioned the concept of being local, but you're so universal. You're so diverse. Your website looks like an international organization because of the information, the services, the lectures you bring to the community. It's very impressive. With that, is there any thought thoughts about becoming larger?
We've looked at that model. I did my dissertation on the Chautauqua movement, and
Ben, I'm going to complain about your boss. He must have a copy of my questions there.
Tom, we both have a crystal ball when it comes to the questions.
I did my dissertation on the Chautauqua movement, which started right here, in our region, and
Yes.
there was at its height there were at least 600 mini Chautauquas around. Some of them even bigger than the one that we have here, but 600 of them around the country. And, at one point, 50 million Americans were taking civic education that Chautauqua's programming. So civic education is really, really important. We have, it has been sort of left behind in small town America because it is quite expensive to do, these speakers to bring in, and the quality is important. You don't need a Jefferson in a place like Pittsburgh or Washington, D.C. There's plenty of these type of programming that takes place in those type of communities. Where you need the Jefferson is in a place like Erie or Corey or Union City or like Franklin and Oil City and places like that. We have looked at opportunities, but we first wanted to try it here in our local footprint, or in a county. So that's why we decided to do these 4 additional chapters, and it seems like the thirst for their success is there. We have had numerous of programs that have been sold out, and we had to move, particularly the one in Fairview. We had to move to a new location because of the demand out there. So we're keeping our eyes open, and if we're going to look for opportunities to go to the next level, probably here in a region, maybe Meadville, maybe a place like Warren or something like that, at the next step.
Oil City. That's my
Oil City.
That would be my recommendation for a dozen different reasons.
It's a great place.
Yes. Interesting, folks. Huge history. And it does go back a couple of hundred years. Well, at least 140. But one of the things that you do that I consider world-class, it is world-class, is the Global Summit Speaker Series. And could you address how that came to be? You have done 7 or 8 of them already? 7 for sure, right?
We're going into the 12th.
Oh, we're going to 12. Oh, what am I doing? That's not a V, that's an X. Forgive me. It's XII, not VI.
Tom, we're English majors here. That's why we're not good at the numbers, but we're great at the content.
But 12 times you brought to the community an outstanding event. Let us know how you started this. What provoked it?
Yeah, this came up as an idea with, we had a person who moved here from Washington, D.C. She's a board member of the Jefferson now, but at that point, she moved from Washington. Her name is Chris Reel. She wanted to get involved in Erie, came to the Jefferson. We sat down with her, to create basically this conference where we can bring in nationally recognized folks to speak here in Erie. So it started as a 2.5-day kind of event. We brought in 5 speakers. She did this with us for 3 years, and then we brought in Steve Scully, who opened additional doors for us, and we were able to grow this, 2.5-day event, 500 people, or 500 tickets sold, to last year, we had over 6,000 tickets sold, and we had something like 16 speakers, 12 events, and so it's grown tremendously. The hope is that we will continue to grow this conference that we hold every November, except for this coming year, which we're probably going to have to move it.
Yes. Sorry to hear that.
We are going to, till the spring. We wanted to do it safely, but we were able to even again take it to the next level, and without mentioning any names because of some issues, we have been able to, for the first time, secure a former president to be as our main headliner for the Global Summit, on top of many other speakers. So it's just grown, and it continues. Erie continues to surprise me with its thirst for intellectual conversations.
The Global Summit moving to the future, if it is online, it becomes a universally accessed event.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of online programming now. You know, we're doing a few a week. We are exploring whether we want to look at moving the Global Summit online. That is something that's still a question. The thing that is out of the question is whether we are going to hold it in person, and we will hold it in person.
Okay, so that's the prerequisite in your mind.
I think it's a nice opportunity for Erie people to come together for a 2 or 3 week period, come together and feel proud that they are, taking part in such an event.
Yeah, and Tom, if I could jump in there, I think that one of the things that really does speak to that desire to have this in person is, while remote learning, we're seeing it evolve in so many different ways. That shoulder-to-shoulder experience is something that we think is important to the spirit of the Global Summit. And you see this with summits and festivals of all nature throughout the country. Some people are moving them online, some are postponing and looking at exploring alternative dates. But the idea is that people are going to be willing to, come out in their own community and experience the learning that's taking place in person. And you're also going to see people traveling to go and see this. And I think that's part of the appeal of the Global Summit, and what we're really trying to grow here as well, is that putting Erie, Pennsylvania on the map as a place where you can go and experience some of the best conversations and some of the most engaging experiences, looking at people that are working on the bleeding edge in their respected sectors, and that people would think, I'm going to book a week and come to Erie, Pennsylvania, or I'm going to take a week off of work in Erie, Pennsylvania to make sure I'm not exhausted and attend, just some of the summit, because this had really grown to a 3-week long event. So that's something that's really critical, even though we have been able to move the rest of our programming online. And Tom, if we keep up with the pace we're actually doing right now, we would be doing about 40-50% more programming than we would in person, because we've been able to pivot to an online platform. We're excited to be able to do that, but we know that not everything can be moved that quickly onto that. So, it's an important thing for the community, and we're going to continue to work on that to make sure that we can hold it as safely as possible and as best as possible when we can do it.
Quite frankly, even before the pandemic, there were quite a few online seminars, as I call them, presentations, usually featuring as many as 10 or 15 world-class, world-renowned speakers. So the concept of doing these things online was an energy thing. How do you get 10 nationally known people in one room and do a live session? So I think the online component, to me, in a way, is sort of worn out. That's my opinion. So having a live session, your philosophy to move in that direction, is exemplary. Congratulations on maintaining that philosophy. Could we ask you about your supporters? And I'm not asking about your funders, but you have a very impressive board. Could you talk at any level you like about your board of trustees?
Oh, sure. Our board is made up of to basically represent a nonpartisan organization. So if you look at the board members, we have very much the Democrats like Judy Lynch and Joyce Avacchio, Mayor Joyce Avacchio is the chairwoman of the board. We have Republicans there who are, Bruce Ramey, who is the vice chair, or Charlie Carl, or so on and so forth. We also have, a diverse board. We have young folks. We have folks from the minority community. So our board is made up to lead an organization that is following the truth wherever it may lead.
Phenomenal. And folks can glance at this list if they care to, but
Absolutely.
They're
all on our website.
But let's talk about your website. Chat a little bit about what you think are the more important. I'm sure they're all important links, but maybe it's your events calendar, maybe it's your programming.
Ben, you want to take this?
Sure, thanks, Ferki. So, Tom, I'd say the most important thing is just the address, jeserie.org. So it's Jefferson Educational Society, Erie.org. So jeserie.org. Head over there, you'll find us. There you're going to find right now a cache of nearly 70 digital programs that you can plug into right now and watch for free. On our YouTube channel, and you'll see that under the events tab. You just click the video tab there, and you'll see all of that. You can scroll through and find essentially something for everyone there. And you can do the same thing if you head over to the divisions tab to check out the publications. I mentioned some of them in the past, but there's quick reads there. Dr. David Frew has an amazing On the Waterfront series that takes us back through some of the history of Erie and the waterfront development, but also some interesting things about Lake Erie we might not have thought of, or fun things to do like ship spotting, how to go and find ships that are on the Great Lakes watershed, what they're carrying, where they're headed, fun things like that. But also Dr. Andrew Roth has a weekly installment of book notes. He's been doing two tremendous projects with us. One, aside from directing the Ramey Fellowship, which we did not get into, that's part of the Civic Leadership Academy, an advanced track for those interested in leadership theory and really plugging into that. But in addition to that, Andy has done a wonderful job looking at 1968, but also the American Tapestry Project, which I'm now proud to say is a great radio program here on WQLN. He's working on that series for WQLN Public Media, so we're so thankful for his work there. But you can find a book notes installment where he talks about some of the influential texts that he's been using and drawing from these two series. Then you can also find great reading about mystics and mystic theology from one of our founders, Reverend Charles Brock. Then you can also find great stories of Erie companies from Dr. Judy Lynch. You can also find other really interesting things about, even a paper on how the COVID-19 pandemic was a great look at Native American history and how we treated the natives when it came to, biological warfare and some of the original sins of our country. You can look at the economic impact of the pandemic and some of the reports we've done there. So you'll find that and so much more. Also, Tom, for people that do want to join and support the Jefferson, they'll find information there about how to become a member. Excellent. And we say with pride, we're very similar to NPR. You can listen to us, you can enjoy us, you can take advantage of us all for free when it comes to the online stuff that we're doing now. And even our programming before in person, Tom, 50% of it was free at the Jefferson. All of the satellite events were free to the community. But of course, becoming a member and being a part of the Jefferson means all the much more, because you're supporting the work our nonprofit is doing. You're helping to support scholars that are doing great scholarship for our community, having that impact and really helping us to continue our day-to-day. So you can join us as a member. You can donate to the Jefferson if you want to. Then you can find out more information about our whole entire team. I know you said it was maybe the hundreds and then maybe 30, but yeah, our small little team, you can read about us there too, get to know us more, because we always love a chance to talk to anybody in the community that is interested in the work we are doing.
Ben Speggen and Ferki Ferati, thank you. This was most educational, which is your job, so you all get an A, an A+, 4.0, both of you. Representing Erie's think tank for community progress. Your programming is outstanding. You are of national quality. Let me correct myself, international quality. In Erie, Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania, we are very fortunate to have you here in Erie. Thank you both for joining the program today.
You are very kind, Tom. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Yeah, Tom, we're lucky to have you in the community as well. So thanks for the interview. Thanks for the time and all you do to talk to people that are doing great work here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you again.